Hello, this is Lee. I consider myself a fan of what you call professional wrestling, that combat sport, that entertainment that's staged and choreographed and pretend, but very, very exciting. I I used to think of professional wrestling as a big waste of time, honestly. Of all the things that have been produced on this planet, why would wrestling be something I'd want to spend my time or money on, really? But one day I found a video, a true video, a VHS tape. Yes, one of those things. And it was called Exposed, Wrestling's Greatest Secrets. Of course, I love secrets, so I couldn't resist. I watched this production, and it told me some of the details of how wrestling is put on, how the moves are done, the character psychology, some of the tricks of the trade, if you will. And while not revealing everything, by any means, this gave me a greater appreciation for what wrestling is all about. And then I saw a fictional film called The Wrestler, about a character called Randy the Ram, who is based on a pastiche of real-life characters, and showing basically the hard life of someone who is past his prime. It was a sort of a cliche sports story, but it was very moving, very well acted, and very gritty. So that added to it. I also became familiar with different types of wrestling. I looked at some of the different wrestling genres out there. I read about some of the history. I saw some more films. Beyond the Mat, the original, telling the story of some wrestlers and their personal problems behind the scenes, some of the injuries, some of the addictions that some of the performers have had when they were famous and when they were not, some of their family struggles. It really intrigued me, it interested me, in a way that some other forms of entertainment like this, like boxing or mixed martial arts, have just not drawn me in. Of course, there's a human story behind every celebrity, whether small or great, but the whole wrestling theater, the circus atmosphere, the sort of, camaraderie behind the, the politics, all these things, it's a side issue to the actual performance. But when you think about just the richness of it, that intrigued me. And so I explored some of the different entertainments over the years. I looked at the WWE, history. This was about 2008, 2009, and I watched the Total Nonstop Action promotion, but I was a bit disappointed. I felt that some of its best years had been behind it, and some TNA fans may disagree with me, but I felt as if they had stopped being as original and vivacious and vibrant and willing to try new things as I had in the past. I really felt that the X Division, the high-flying, wrestlers that they had was very good. I thought that the Knockouts Division, the women's wrestling on TNA, was very, shall we say, creative. It was interesting. It was varied. But it was limited still. Some of the, I think, better talents started to be overshadowed by those who simply looked good on television, the more model types. Well, with the independent promotions, I was advised, check these out. These will show you, what it's really all about. So I was introduced to Chikara, which focuses largely on comedy, on costumes and gimmicked characters, very cartoonish characters, and some that I really like, and perhaps have been influenced by in my own life. That's the power of art. Art can really get to you and touch you and bring out things in yourself. Well, Chikara is there, and then there's Ring of Honor. Took a more serious, more competitive, sporty atmosphere. There was Ring of Honor, and many of the TNA stars I'd seen actually got their start in Ring of Honor. And that was very intriguing to me, but at the same time, I didn't quite get into it. Chikara, I appreciated. It felt very low budget at times. I really liked the women's wrestling, but it seemed as if there just really wasn't a promotion that integrated that aspect very well. So that's when I saw Shimmer Women Athletes. I actually discovered Shimmer Women Athletes not from a wrestling promotion, but from video games. Of course, I love your video games. There are video games out there that allow you to play wrestling, and it's very interesting because, of course, with wrestling, it's predetermined, and yet in a video game, anything can happen. You control the action as if it were a real contest. And so I enjoyed that very much. And most wrestling games these days, from Fire Pro, which is a very good series, I wish they would make more of them, although the recent one on the Xbox was very different. But the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2 just had very good installments of the series. Anyway, one of the great things about Fire Pro and these other games is that, let's say the game comes with a certain number of wrestlers, and they're fun to play with, but it's so easy to create new wrestlers that these add-ons, these free community creations are just so vast, and they introduce you to real-life wrestlers. For example, there were many in the Shimmer promotion that appeared, and I kept thinking, well, what is this Shimmer promotion that produces all these characters, all these women who have such, varied personalities and characters and outfits and moves? These are nothing like the divas that I remember. These are more like, the Joshi, the Japanese women from the early 90s and the late 80s that were just so amazing. So finally I looked into what Shimmer was, and I was just amazed. It came from such humble beginnings, from the Volcano Girls and Dave Prazak and, a Ring of Honor announcer and manager, and then it just became its own phenomenon. And it's certainly not as popular as Lucha Underground or Ring of Honor, but it subsists almost entirely on DVD sales. And it's just very, very fun to see live. So, I got into Shimmer. I saw Volume 41 and 42 live, 2011. I didn't look like this, but on the inside I was jumping around, I was, floating through the air. It was just fun. And I saw, 44 and 45. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and through because I'm starting to forget now which ones I've seen. But I saw quite a few live volumes, and that was just very, very exciting. '45 and 46, 49 and 50. 53 was an iPay-per-view. That was the first iPay-per-view. I saw that on the internet live. That was very large. I think it was 850 to 900 in attendance versus the usual 250 that they've had for most of the time that they've been around. And then 54 and 55 I saw live. And then I took a bit of a break. I wasn't able to see the show live for a while, but then volume 67 and 68 I was very impressed by, and I'm planning, if I can, go to the next shows that are coming up, 76 and 77, possibly 78 and 79, if I remember correctly. But even the shows I didn't watch, I always anticipated, well, what's going to happen? The thing about Shimmer is that a lot of the performers come and go, and so if someone came over for Japan and they were able to be there for that weekend, they'd fit them into the story somehow. But they might not be back for the next volume in 6 months. So the real story has to be told in the ring. And occasionally they'll have some backstage segment videos. Usually someone's being interviewed and someone else comes by and says something and upsets that person, and then a new rivalry begins. But generally the story is told in the ring. And because the matches are not 3 or 4 minutes, they're usually 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending on the match, there's a chance to tell that story. And then there might be another match the next night. Actually, there'll probably be 2 matches in one night. And then the next night, 2 more matches with those same people, or someone connected to them. And that's the story. And it draws you in. I appreciate that, and I appreciate them being given that chance, where so many women just would not be able to appear on TV. Another thing that Shimmer does is it shows more of the diversity of women's wrestling. In men's wrestling, of course, you'll see tall men, short men, fat men, thin men, muscular, and smaller. You'll see just many colorful characters, serious, funny, villains, heroes. You'll see everything that you can imagine. But in women's wrestling, on television at least, it seems to be there's certain body types, certain height, certain standard of beauty that's very closely adhered to. Once in a while you get like one wrestler who's different. A good example of this was in a period of TNA where they would have Awesome Kong, who was huge. She was gigantic, and she was powerful and angry. But everyone else was kind of small and similar to one another. And that's not to discount any of their individual talents, but I think they were just limited in what they were allowed to do. But with Shimmer, I feel as if there's much more diversity, and I wish there was more of that diversity in other divisions. And I think people like Sarah Del Rey in WWE may have a good influence on that, because they know how good it can be when the women are allowed to be as creative and expressive as the men. And then, if that continues, maybe more people will watch professional wrestling and enjoy it together, rather than sort of laughing it off and thinking, oh, that's just for kids or silly people on the internet. Although silly people on the internet and children, of course, drive entire industries. So I've said enough, I think, for now, but congratulations, Shimmer. You've hooked me and made me a fan. I hope you make some more fans, and I hope you continue putting on a good product and giving people an opportunity to see what women's wrestling can be.